I've described the following treatments fully in my book because these treatments are effective for all different kinds of behavior problems. It takes, when you do a movement really slowly, all the information of the weight, of the muscles, of the senses have time to go to the brain, which they wouldn't if you did it real fast. All right, I'm going to do just one of these. Janet, would you please put your hand up here? And we always try to say please because we got to teach the children to say please. And then I will start very slowly, touching with the fingers above the eyebrows and slowly using the whole palm, go right into the scalp. Then you reach underneath the eyes, underneath the chin, over the earlobe, and way back into the scalp. Close your eyes, please. Underneath the eyes, underneath the chin, and over the earlobe. Now that's terribly important because when you put your hand over the earlobe, you're stimulating the facial nerve. And the facial nerve connects with a tiny little muscle that's inside the ear called the stapedius muscle. And the stapedius muscle is very hard to find in any neurology textbooks. You can find it in Gray's Anatomy, and you can find it occasionally in people who study the hearing mechanism. It pulls the little ossicles, the tiny little bones inside the ear, away from the eardrum when there's a loud noise. That's why if you know a firecracker is going to go off, you go, because in stimulating the facial nerve, you're also pulling that little bone away from the ear so you can tolerate the noise better. Now, you don't know that, but this is what happens. The second time around, you do the same thing, but you do it with more pressure. The first time around, you reach all the receptors that are on the top of the skin, and there are also receptors on the lower part of the skin. And these are the ones we reach the second time. So this time, you push your hand down so that you can feel the bones underneath the skin. And again, hard enough so you can feel the bones and over the earlobe, and feel the bones and over the earlobe. What we're doing here is we're stimulating all the nerves, all the cranial nerves, and those nerves meet down here in the brainstem, and from there they connect with the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve allows the heart to slow down, allows the whole system to go into the parasympathetic, the relaxed mode. The heart slows down, digestion can take place, the adrenals can relax. It's a whole body function that's happening. And this is why this particular exercise is so terribly important for autistic children. And if you can't get them to cooperate, as I said, you can do that when they're asleep at night, or you can do it when you wake them up in the morning. All right, what we do next is very familiar to all the people who are doing neurodevelopmental exercise. And I call it the lizard, which is just like in Tai Chi, where you give everything a name, because Carl Delicato said that it's like a lizard pushing through the mud, and you put pressure on the inside, on the palm of your hand, and that pressure, now bring your elbow down, that's it, and that pressure stimulates a reflex that will turn the head, bring this side down, and come up on this side. Now, a lot of the autistic children and a lot of children don't know how to do this. And I used to think that they were silly or stupid, or they couldn't do it, or they didn't want to do it, but they actually cannot do it. And in that case, we may have to go to some earlier prenatal movements, and that's another story. But usually this is sufficient. And you remind the child to concentrate on the feelings on the palm of the hand and tell them it's like a lizard pushing through the mud. And if necessary, you have to help the child turn the head. And when I was doing it with my son, I was terrible because I'd say, turn your head. Well, poor kid couldn't turn it until I finally found out that I had to help him first. And after I helped him for about 3 days in a row, he could do it on his own. What happens here is this. The muscle that turns the head is the trapezius muscle, and that fits just about here. And this muscle is controlled by the 11th cranial nerve, and that nerve doesn't go way up in the brainstem, it goes right into the medulla. And the medulla is that part of the body, that part of the brainstem that controls the breathing. Now, when I was working with the delinquents, I would get them to do this about 10, 15 times. And then something strange would happen. This part here would start to move up and down, because for the first time, instead of breathing just plain up here in the chest, they were breathing with their diaphragm. And I would be able to point this out to them, because, you know, these kids think I'm crazy anyway. I would point this out to them and said, well, where are you breathing? And said, well, we're breathing down here. And then we did something that really got those kids hooked on it for us. We said, look, this is what happens. This nerve, which controls your breathing, is making you breathe down here. And normally, you are so angry that if you were breathing down here, you would scream. So as a result, you're only breathing through the upper part of your chest. So this is what we're trying to do here. We're really making things happening in your brain and in your body.